Okay, welcome to Bitrix Live Q&A. I am Damien Edwards from Bitrix24 Partners Interface, and with me I've got our support manager Andy Naylor.
Hi guys, if you've got any questions throughout this session, just put them in the box provided on YouTube, and you can also tweet us at Interface, or you can also email us live at interface.com. And if we don't get around to your question today, or you have a question midweek that you would like answering, just send it to one of those, send us an email live at interface.com, and we can answer next Thursday. We have a session, this session every Thursday, 10 AM Eastern. As you'll be well aware, you don't need to register, so you can just come along any time on Thursday between 10 and 11.
Yeah, ask us any questions about anything to do with Bitrix. So we're here to help you with your problems. We'll answer most questions that come through. So it's a good opportunity. If you've got something that needs fixing, we'll show you exactly how to do it live on this session. We've had one question come through in advance regarding importing products. So I'm just going to start off with how you import products into Bitrix. If we go into CRM and into our products section within the CRM, then it's fairly straightforward. We can use this little cog here and import from a CSV file. So let's just download. Probably the best thing to do actually is to download the sample file using this link here, and if we open up that folder, let's put that onto the desktop. And so we've got a sample file. We'll populate our file with our products. We then choose our file. That's the file that we downloaded. Add that, and things like first row is a header. You'll generally have the column names on the first row, so keep that tick so it doesn't import itself as a product. And then if we go through to the next page, it'll ask us to map these sections across. Because we've downloaded a file and imported the same file, they're all going to map perfectly across. If you want to name your columns the same as the Bitrix name, then they'll map across. If you want to just give them a general name, you can manually map these across. So this is the name on the spreadsheet. This is the name, the file, or the field that it's going to locate itself in within Bitrix. So you can choose the correct field from the drop downs, and then we can see that that's that one product we had on the system is successfully imported. So it's fairly straightforward. I think if you're on the self-hosted, let's just have a quick look in self-hosted version. If you go into the content within the control panel and then into catalogs, if you go into eStore, I apologise. If you go to eStore in settings and then into data import, then you can import through this side of the system. I think actually it's pretty much the same. Let's just select that file, and you need to select where you're importing into. We've got a couple of different product catalogs on this version. I think actually, to be fair, there's no additional functionality essentially to importing inside the control panel. So whether you're on the cloud or the self-hosted, you can import products from a CSV file. So it's simple to either move over from another system, or if you want to manage prices on products and descriptions and things in a spreadsheet and then upload those once a year for speed, then it's fairly straightforward to do. Okay. How do you save an email as draft to be able to complete it and send it later? You can't. I don't think Bitrix really. If we just go into the CRM and into a contact, so Bitrix allows you to email contacts from the system using using this tool here, you can select from templates. See if we've got one with a bit of content on. So you can select from templates like this, and if we just send this email, then we will see that it populates in the activity stream. So the benefit of doing this is you get full activity history on this contact, but you can't. Bitrix doesn't when you're sending emails from the CRM, it doesn't operate like an email client, in that you have a sort of sent items and you have a kind of drafts items. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work as a full email client in that way. Bitrix has integration with Yandex email client, so you can use that. We go into mail, which you'll see in your menu item. Then you can either integrate with one of these email providers or input your IMAP credentials, and you can sync your email activity from your external email client. So we quite often recommend that you carry on using your existing provider, if that's Gmail or Outlook, very popular, very good email clients. Carry on using that, but just set it up here so that you can integrate with that. But yeah, certainly when you're sending emails from the CRM, there's no kind of drafts area, but you've got that templates option, so you can't save an email and come back to it, come back to it later.
Okay, another question's come through. We're testing the self-hosted version for our company, but I don't have the edit mode selector on top of the page. Do you know how I can enable it? Yeah, certainly. So you need to go to the URL if you don't see this top section here. And then after your URL, if you just type in Bitrix/admin, that will get you to the control panel where you need to be. And then you need to go to the settings icon on the left-hand side. And then if we go to module settings here, and then now we're in the kernel module settings. If you scroll to the bottom of this particular page, then you will see the public section toolbar. Now we don't have any users added to this section here because by default, if you're an administrator, you will be able to see that. So I think what happens on a recent update of Bitrix, this has never showed the user to all employees. So you can just click on the cross icon next to that, leave them as it is, so they're blank, click apply, go to the front, and then you'll be able to see this top control panel section.
That's a very common problem, I think, or issue that's raised. I'm not sure why it's not as default shown, but I guess for some organisations they don't actually want their administrators to access the control panel through this link. It is default, is that right? So if you, I think it is. If you install a new instance, then by default you don't see it. You need to do that to enable it. I think it will
get corrected, I think, in a later update, but it's just, the important part is that you just need to know that it's /Bitrix/admin to get you to the control panel to start off with, so then you'll be able to see this section here.
Yeah. Can you drag and drop from an email attachment to files in the lead ordeal? Let's have a look. So if we go into a contact, so open up this contact. So let's say we've got, if we receive an email into Bitrix, it will check for an email address. Let's open a different contact. Okay, so if we receive an email into Bitrix, it's going to check for, we've got an email in that one. It will check for an email address. If the email address exists against a contact, it will copy the email into their activity stream. If you have the option enabled, you can generate new leads from emails that don't already exist against a contact in the system. But the question is, can you drag a file from that email into a lead or a deal? No, not really. I mean, I think if let's open the other email. Let's have a look. If we were to open up an email, then any file attachments would appear at the bottom. if you want those to appear, no, you can't drag it off this page and into another record. So I guess you'd have to download it and save it, or you could create a process that automatically maybe copies that email plus attachments into a new lead or deal. If you were to explain the purpose of it, maybe you could find a way around that to do what you need it to do. Okay, when generating quotes, I want to change the field due date to validity of quote. Is that possible? Let's have a look. Let's go into a quote. Let's go into our quotes. So we want to change due date. Well, you can certainly create a new field within. You can certainly create a new field called validity of quote. I don't know if, assuming due date is a standard field. Let's have a look. We've got a lot of custom fields in here. I don't think it exists. I'm never going to find it in that massive list. Let's just go into edit mode. So if I edit this, then I can actually change these descriptions. So you need to go into edit mode first, select the field that you want to change, and then just click edit, and you can change the name of that field. So you can change the name of a standard field that already exists. That's the first way of doing it. If you want to do if you want to create a custom field, so you want to keep the existing field, create a new field, go into your CRM and settings, go into forms, page, custom fields, say it's leads, we'd add a field in the lead section. So you give the field the name you need. You can select that it's a mandatory field. The record won't be able to be saved unless this field is populated, have it as a multiple. But in this case, you're looking for a date. You can have date and time, or you can just choose date. So choose date and then give it a name and save it. I think the only thing to do then, once you've saved it, is go back into let's say it's a lead. You're saving the field to go back into lead and open up a lead, any lead, and go to the select field link at the bottom, and this will allow you to select the newly created field to make that visible on your page. Position it where you want to position it, so we can move them around, save the record, and final thing to do then will be to close that, open up a new lead. Final thing to do would be to save preferences for all users. If you want all users to see, generally you want all users seeing the same thing. So you, as an administrator, you have the option to save this view for all users. So two different options on that.
So I've got another question. How can I set up emails to generate in Bitrix with no delay? I'm on the cloud version. So emails are basically generated. I think Damien showed you how to integrate your email here. So you would connect your email inbox, connects your inbox and your sent mail, and it will basically, I believe it fetches it every 5 minutes, 5 or 10 minutes, it syncs it. So it won't do it instantly, it won't do it straight away, and it will do it on a 5 to 10 minute cycle, and then it will pull in the email to the contact or company in the CRM and sync it to that particular contact. But yeah, it won't do it every second, or it will do it every 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah, so how can I generate in Bitrix with no delay? So there is a delay, then there's no way of changing that. I guess there's no way, even on one of the self-hosted versions, I'm guessing there's probably not a way of speeding that up. But maybe if it's if it's critical to you, then you can get in touch with us afterwards. We can find out whether on a self-hosted version, which has self-hosted versions have more options. As you can see inside the control panel here, there's more options, more settings that you can change. So it might be that actually we can change. Okay,
So there you can see we've got a mailbox set up for our support at Bitrix24. We've got the check interval, and we can specify how many minutes we want it to check. On the cloud, I don't think you would be able to change that. Like I say, it does default to 5 minutes. But on the self-hosted, you can increase that a little bit.
Okay. Are there any GDPR functions changes happening in Bitrix24? Yeah, Bitrix has got a team working on this at the moment, and they will be launching an update for it before the deadline, which I think is about a month's time. So all the things that you need to do to comply with that regulation are going to be built into an update available fairly soon. Okay, I don't want to see the activity stream on my main page when I log in. I'm going to have the CRM as my home page screen. Go back into here. So that's very straightforward, I think. If as default, by default, you see the activity streams, kind of useful because you can see new comments that people have made on things that you're involved with. But if you don't want that, then if you go to into the CRM, in fact, you go to configure menu, you can make homepage. So if we click on this, then the CRM moves to the top, and if we save those changes, then whenever I click into the logo or access the site, and this. In this case, it's going to be the activities page because this is the page that we put first. I think that's correct. If we common page, normally the first page is the start page. So if we configure the menu to the kind of standard configuration, so I can go into my settings here, click into configure menu. We can drag these items around. So I've got the start over there. If I finish that, if I click on my logo to take me back to the home, then I'm guessing it should take me to the start page now. So not only can you have the CRM as your home page, you can configure which page within the CRM becomes your home page. Just on that menu thing, if we go into, let's say, lists. So look, we've got a custom list here called invoicing. If we want to add that to our menu, we can do that by clicking on the star, and you can see that's added the item to there. If I want to remove it, I can do the same thing by deselecting. So let's just change that back. So if we want to change back to activity stream, make home page, save, and then back to the start.
So you got just to go back to the name change on the quote, we had expiration date. I think you're referring to it's not reflected on the actual quote itself. So when you download a quote, that name won't reflect based on maybe the PDF. So if you download the PDF, the name won't have changed from whatever you've changed it on here. Now that's correct. So it all depends on what version that you've got. On the cloud, you can go to the application store and download an application called Doc Designer, and that will allow you to tweak and modify the actual quote that you download. If you've got the self-hosted, it's a little bit different. Probably recommend getting in touch with a partner to just modify your quote PDF. It's available in the control panel, but it is a page of code that we would recommend just getting a partner to just change if you wanted to change something. So yes, the field name will not reflect on the actual PDF. You'll need to get a tool for the cloud, or we just recommend a partner for the PDF change on the self-hosted.
Yeah. On tasks, cloud version, can you change the settings for task counters? Can you change the date setting for almost overdue? I think probably no, as standard. So we've got these counters here. and it gives you an indication here of how many are overdue. If we click into that, it will resort the filter to that item. So what you want is almost overdue, or you need, I don't know if we have a parameter which is almost overdue, and I don't know how you would want to define that, but you can't actually customize these. There's no settings to change these counters. So on the cloud version, if you had a self-hosted version, we could customize that. If you wanted some parameters that were like almost overdue was those that will be overdue within 2 or 3 days or something. If you want that to be the parameter, that could be enabled, that could be implemented on a self-hosted version. But
yeah, it may be that you look at it in a different view. So I mean, like the Gantt chart view is a little bit more of a visual representation of your tasks. So you can see here that we've got a deadline of this particular date, and you can see the date that will approach it. So it may be that that's the option. I know there isn't an option for almost overdue.
I mean, you do have two different end dates on a task. So you could have you could have a first end date and then a deadline date, and so you've got a start date and an end date. So the end date could be your almost overdue, and your deadline could be your absolute due date. And by using those two fields, then you can report on, you want to report on tasks that are almost overdue. If you use this field, then you just need to report on end date. We go back into our tasks list view. We could add our got deadline. Okay, so we don't have end date available in this view to be able to add as a column. So if you wanted that, if you want some of the packages, we might be able to customize it to do that. Let's have a look if we can filter by end date, start date, close on, create on. Okay, I'm not sure if planned finish date is similar. We'd probably have to check that, so I'm not too sure, but you can certainly use that field. Whether you can actually filter on it as standard, whether that option is available on the cloud, I'm not too sure. We'd have to kind of test it. You could probably test it yourself, but if you had one of the business packages, then you could certainly be able to do that. You'd be able to add that in as a column, but it's not. Might be that on the cloud it's not configurable to do that, and all you can use is as you've got here, deadline date, so it might be limited in that respect. You can do a reminder though. Let's just go into that. So I can set a reminder using date. So I could set a reminder a couple of days before. We've got a deadline of 26. I could set a reminder, the day before that, and this will send a reminder to the responsible person by notification, or I can change that and send it by email. Either way. So different ways. There's certainly different ways of achieving that, hence exactly the way you need to do it for your own purpose.
I've got another question. I was creating a business process in which approval would be required to add a company name, but I cannot find lock document option. Has it been removed? No, I believe the locking document is still on here. I'm not sure how many files that we've got in here, but if we click on we still have the lock document here, so it's locked for editing.
I wonder if it's part of a process, whether we can lock a document as part of a process.
I mean, yeah, you couldn't lock a document in part of a business process. That option is not available in a business process. I wouldn't have thought. If you were going to go into a business process for a company, let's take a look at what options are available. So let's have a look. We've got a section here for the drive on the right hand side. So if we had yeah, there's no options for. I've never seen a locking document option on here. Let's see if we got. No. No, I wouldn't. I don't think you can. You could lock a document. It may be that you, if you had the self-hosted, you could use a PHP block to locate that document and switch the locking on. That may be an option. It's not something that I've seen before, but with the self-hosted, you have got a little bit more flexibility due to having this action block here. So we'd be able to get the previous document that you've uploaded here. So you could see file ID, and then from that file ID, we'll be able to maybe change the field within the database using the API to lock that document. That's a possible option.
Okay, is it possible to send an email with an attachment as an auto task based on completed action in a pipeline? Sending an email with an attachment. So let's go into say we're working on a deal, and so let's say we're going to send an email based on updating one of these stages. So let's say you've asked for based on completed action in a pipeline. So I mean, this process could trigger on any field completing. So if we changed one of these drop downs, then we could oh, that's actually the stage. So if we change one of these drop downs that are available, that could trigger a business process. But let's say we were doing this based on one of these stages. So let's say when it was at stage shipped, you wanted to send an email with an attachment. So go into the tab here, and we've gone into the CRM and settings, and then into automation. If we go into business processes, we need to go into our deals and add a new template. Save that. So we need a condition. So we need to look at the stage of this deal. So if we go to one of our branches here, we can look at an element, drop down to element field, and then select the field that we want to use. In this case, we're going to use stage down here, and the stage we decided on was, I can't remember, but let's say it's this stage here. And we save that. So the condition is going to look at different stages. You can add additional stages in here, and you can do different things based on the deal achieving different stages. But on this one, we just want to send an email. And if we go into interactive settings and email, then we can certainly send an email. We can specify who it's from, the content of the email. If you want to have an HTML email rather than a plain text email, you can do that. And you can attach a file. So you can attach, if this email goes with the same file every time to everyone, just add the file in here. If not, you'd need to use you'd need to search for the file, and so you could use the file could be located in a field within the deal. So let's say you have a conversation with the client, they send you a file, a completed proposal document or something, you save it to a field within the deal, and then when you update the stage, you want to then send that file out as part of the email. You'd need to search for that field within here. Which you've done that, it will then dynamically add the relevant file to this email. So yeah, it's fairly straightforward to do, and save you time. It would mean that the process happens in the same way every time.
Got a question. Please help me with setting up a business process in which approval is required to add a company using the cloud version. So if it's basically just adding a new company, I think what you would need to do is you would need to trigger the business process, is that right, on creation and then based on that creation, it would be live for a certain period of time, wouldn't it?
I mean, you create the. You could. I mean, you could have a process where you complete a form and then it's approved, and then the fields from the form are used to create the company. But it might be better that you actually just have a stage where you create a company, but you have a drop down which is kind of status, which is kind of waiting approval, so it's not a live company, and then.
Let me just change this so it's clear. So we're in the cloud one at the moment. So yeah, you're probably right. You're probably best to have in the CRM. If we go into, we can create this. So if we go into the settings, and in fact, let me just log out and log in as our admin, because you have to be an administrator to access some of the different areas. So just so now I'm logged in as an administrator. We get to see all the settings. So let's go into a business process and let's add a new process on here. So the first thing you need to do is when a new company is added, so we'll say new company. So that's the first part you need to make sure when a new company is added. And then we'll have an approval element in here, and we'll say, we'll call this approved company, and then we need to specify the person who's going to approve this. So in our case, I'll set it to myself, which is going to be Max Smith. Click on insert, and then we'll say this is the title that the approver is going to see. So please approve company. And what we can do here is we can pull in the elements from the actual company that's been created. So you can pull in company name, and then we could have some more information on here. So we could say more information. You don't have to, and you can put here what you wanted, so you can put a phone number in here, so we pick up work phone, and then you could say the person who's has created this is, and then we could pull the person who's created it into. So we could say, I think that would be I do have quite a lot of fields in here, so let's just say the person, we're going to put the responsible person as the text here. So this is that right?
I would just go into,
I think it's in users.
Yeah, just
created by.
Yourself, yeah.
So it's the person who's created by, I do believe. Click on save. So anyway, you can put as much information in as there as possible. If it was rejected, you could actually then delete the company if you wanted to. If it was approved, then you can do whatever you want.
Change the status of it or something, from kind of pending company to live company or something like that.
Yeah,
you did a company type. Yeah.
So it may be that you have a company type, like Damien said, you would have a company type as pending, and then if it got approved, you would mark them as clients. So we can name that. And then what would happen? Click on save. And then if we click on save, that's as simple as we'll do at the moment. You can see that it's on create. Now if we were to create a new company here, and I'll just put, and then we'll put on here, and we'll put a telephone number in as well. And then click on save. So you can see that's a new company's been created. You can see on the left-hand side, we could put a notification in here if we wanted to. On the left-hand side, you can see we have a new workflow pending. So the workflow has come in here. Should have put really found the responsible, the created by individual. But you can see the information in here, so you can pull in anything that you want. If we wanted to start the approval, so we could accept that this company is going to go live. We could refuse it, which would then delete the company. So you can do quite a lot of things in the business process. In this case, we'll accept it, and now you should see that in the CRM that company's been created, and the company type is client. So you can see there, so company type is client. So you can update, and that's probably how we would recommend.
We could also add in some sort of like control there as well. So if it's maybe send reminders if it's not approved within a period of time, and maybe if it never gets approved after a longer period of time, you could probably just automatically delete that request or something like that to keep the system nice and tidy.
So how do I get web form inquiries from my site to leads or deals? So in Bitrix, in the CRM, you have the CRM forms option here. So if we just click into here, then it's pretty straightforward really. You can add a new form, and you can put whatever form you want in here. So we'll just say sales inquiry, we'll give this a title. And then on the actual, so say for example it's going to be creating a lead, so we'll say give the actual form a name. And then on the right hand side here, you can see we have a lead, and then we've got all the fields that are available within a lead. So if you create any custom fields, these will be accessible here. If you wanted to just put name, last name, date of birth, and maybe company name. So you can start building up your form, and then if you click on more, you can then decide what this form creates. So in this case, we could create a lead, we could create a deal, a company, or a quote, or we can even create an invoice. In this case, we'll create a lead. We can have some duplicate control, and then we can also style it however we want it to. So there's some standard styles within here. If you know any CSS, you can click into here and really style the form up to match what your company looks like. So you can give there's a few other options here. And once we've created it, what it'll do is it'll create a form, so it'll be live on here, and then you'll have once you click save, you'll have the option to click on embed code, and then you'll click and see and here you can put this on a page within your website. So if you've got a WordPress site, you can embed it straight into a WordPress page, and it just generally, as soon as that form is submitted, it will create a lead, and it'll tell you if you go into your lead section here. I don't know if you go into on our site, your leads will look exactly like this. So you can see here, CRM form is going to be the source, and then it's going to be complete CRM form from whatever your form is called. So it's pretty straightforward to submit.
Okay. We had a question about doing a demo in Spanish, I think. Set up a demo on a self-hosted with Spanish. I think probably the easiest, if you go to Bitrix24.es, you can create a free account in Spanish. It might be the easiest way to do a demo in Spanish. You can change the language, but it's tricky, and the self-hosted can be done. It's, I don't think it's a standard sort of setting where you can turn languages on and off. I think you've got to do a little bit of work to enable them.
I'm not 100% sure on the list. I think what you're trying to say is that you're setting up a demonstration on the self-hosted, you need a Spanish language pack. I'm not 100% sure if, I do believe Spanish is a language available on the self-hosted, isn't it?
I think it is. I mean, there's Spanish is available on the cloud, but the self-hosted has a lot more text. There's a lot more. As you can see, there's quite a big control panel in the back end, and there's some additional features on the front end. So there's a lot more to translate on the self-hosted version. So it's sometimes the case that the English has been translated to Spanish for the cloud, but it's not been fully translated to cover the self-hosted version. But okay, so we've got Spanish available. So so you can do.
It may be that if you are setting up a trial or something on the self-hosted, get in touch with us after. We have we have developed some clients language switches on the front end here, so it comes up with a little flag, and you can click and you can select your own language. And like Damien said, on the self-hosted there is quite a lot of different areas compared to the cloud, and it will only translate your menus and some of the other areas such as the buttons and things like that. It does change. But if you want it completely fully translated, then probably need to extend the language pack a little bit, I would have thought.
Yeah. Got a question about when I attach a web file to this form. We just talked about where does the file go to. So that depends. That depends on where you select really. So if we go into CRM forms up there, and we go to edit this particular form. So firstly, you need to create your file, your field, and so you create the field and position it where you want to. So we're talking about a lead, generating a lead here. If I just go back into another page and we go into the CRM, leave that page, and we go into the leads, and open up one of these leads. Then say we don't have a file field available in the lead, I can add a field in here. We can add a file field in here. So we can add a new file field in here. I can save that file field in the leads module, and then when I go back into my form, I'll be able to find that new field that I created in the right hand column, and then save it to the form. In this way, the file will upload to the location in the lead that you've saved here. I've not saved that one there.
Yeah, I think the thing is with the forms, you can only use the fields that are available within the actual element itself. So if you're creating a lead, as Damien said, you would need to create that field first as a file, add it to your form, and then when they submit it, it will just go into that particular field and store against that particular lead.
So we've got a follow-up question about business process for approving a company. It says if I reject the approval, the user, my sales team is still able to add the company name. I guess that is uncontrollable. So he's still able to add the company name. So I don't know, if you reject it, the company should get deleted if it's done properly. So I think you'd still be able to add it again, and then the process would run again. So
if you use the delete element action block on refusal of the approval, the delete element basically means it will delete the company that user created. So they won't be able to add anything to that particular company because it would get deleted as soon as it got rejected.
Yeah, they'd still be able to create request to add the company again, but I guess they're going to get bored a little bit with doing that if it keeps getting refused. I mean, if you're using a self-hosted version, you can always add in some PHP that would automatically reject certain things. If you wanted it to do that, it could actually remember names and automatically reject those if they come around again. We work with a lot of businesses that actually this is really important to make sure that they've got a lot of people working on these processes to make sure that these sort of things are built into their processes so that it can save them a little bit of time on each transaction, each process, and so it's worth investing some developer time in creating that custom into the process. I think in the cloud version there's a lot 50 plus, kind of 60 plus, I guess, standard action blocks, so you can do almost anything you want. Sometimes there's just sort of little things that you can't quite do exactly the way you want it. Okay, we want to create a list of contacts, and our call center then automatically dials each contact. So we get asked a lot about kind of call center capabilities of Bitrix. So Bitrix is an award-winning CRM, always in the last 3 years ranked in the top 10 for the PC magazine for top 10 CRMs in the world, so a very, very advanced CRM tool, and included is a full telephony system. If you want to do kind of auto dialing, I guess we haven't got many contacts here, but I guess the first thing you do is filter your contacts. So I probably want to filter by who's responsible. Let's just scroll over to the right. So we can see that John Smith, let's pull this over here. We can see that John Smith is available for 2 of these and Mark for 1. Let's just get rid of some of these other fields that we don't need. So we don't need things like birthday in this view. We don't need source or source information. Let's just save that. So you can change the columns that you see as a neater view. And we can see that John Smith. So I'm John Smith. I want to see all my contacts. I want to then call all my contacts. So I can set my filter. Of course, you could add additional criteria to this if you want to filter, narrow down by things like type of contact. In fact, you've got a lot of fields that you can use, including any custom fields that you create in order to create this filter. So you might want to filter by individual, ones that I'm responsible for, but also categorize them by certain types of people to run a kind of telesales campaign. But I've got mine there. I can select my whole list, and different things you can do then. Can we send a message? Yeah, we can send a message. We can reassign, things like that. So send a message would be send an email message. You can also send text messages, bulk text messages. It's not available. SMS is not available in this pop-up list here, but you could send an SMS just by running a process from this. So it'd be a slightly different way of doing it, but you can do that. I think actually we recently added SMS for a particular customer who wanted to be able to trigger an SMS. We added it to this list, so sort of customization is possible. But in terms of dialing, you've got a dedicated button for that. You can see my list on the right hand side. You can see my telephony screen on the left hand side, and we can start to dial. We can start to dial each of these contacts in turn. As soon as I finish the call, we'll move on to the next one. And that's how you do it. You can report on number of calls made. You can do reports on again, filter by user, filter by date range. You want to see how many calls one person has made on a particular day. You can do all that. You can listen back to the calls if you're recording calls. So I think full suite of call center features available.
I've got a question. Is there a way to create a web form to create new tasks? So if you wanted to place a form externally outside Bitrix, you would probably need it self-hosted and use the API to create a new task via a form. You can obviously create, if you go to the activity stream, you can create a form in your workflow setting. So for example, if we was to say a new inquiry, you could have task name here, responsible person, so on and so forth. Click on send, and then that would trigger a workflow that allows you to create a task, or you could create a list task. But to do it externally, web form, there isn't anything that's available at the moment. You would need to create a web form using HTML, and then use the Bitrix API to create the task externally.
Okay. How do I find a list of invitations sent to external users? Find pending extranet users. Once the invite is sent, is there a way to cancel the invitation?
Yes, if you go to employees and then find employee, you can see all your invited that we haven't got any on here, but you'll be able to see a list of all your invited users on here.
So we can invite by email, can't we?
Maybe just say with an extranet user.
You have to add them to a group, I think, don't you? If you're
As an extranet user, yeah, you have to add them to a group.
So we can invite them in here, and then we got the option to No, we've not got the option. So as standard, you don't have the option in this page to kind of cancel that.
I'm not sure with the self-hosted. I've not really explored the invited section before. I'm not sure with the self-hosted version. Maybe we could introduce a button that said uninvite, and then it just stopped the invite. I think as standard, I don't believe it's any different in the actual cloud version as well. So if we go to, I think it's under company. It's under company on the cloud version. You click on employees and click on invited. Let's just see if it's any different quickly. So we can say, I don't believe it will be, but we can try. Give it a refresh. There's no way to cancel the invite there, but maybe if we click on the cog. Oh yeah, so we can actually delete that invited user on there if we wanted to.
Okay, so there's probably a setting then on this one that means we're not seeing that cog. I think if we just look quickly on the self-hosted version here, if we go into the settings in the control panel and user list, you do have a lot of flexibility to be able to search by external users. So you have a lot of flexibility to be able to manage your users in a number of different ways. So I can find all my external users in here, and we can edit them. So that's actually the one that we just created here. So I could delete that from here, even though the user's pending request is still outstanding. It's created it as a user, so we could remove it from the user list. In the self-hosted version, you have a lot of extra fields that you can use to categorize these people, or add additional custom fields in to display on their profile page and different things. So yeah, it looks like you can do it within. So it looks like actually if you go to the invited, it's not, but the settings are not available, but you've got the settings available on this page to delete, or you can do it through the control panel if you're self-hosted.
Just got a question: is there a way we can retrieve the contacts deleted from Bitrix database? So I don't believe that's possible on cloud. If in the self-hosted database, I know they don't permanently delete. They are actually just marked as deleted. So I think we had an inquiry the other day about this. You can actually retrieve them on the self-hosted, because you can obviously access the SQL database to be able to unmark them as deleted. So if you delete them on the self-hosted, they're not permanently deleted, they still exist in the database, but they're just marked as deleted. And there's no way on the front end here that we can pull them back. We would need to check in the database and pull them back from that method.
I've got a request to upload videos on business processes. So if you want to see the video from today, that will be on YouTube. These videos automatically save on YouTube. If you want to see, we have some other YouTube videos on creating business processes. That might be a good place to go, or just get in touch with us and we can do some training one-to-one with you. I think on business processes, then they're all different. So if you want to do something a little bit more adventurous, then probably best to go with a partner in the beginning.
Yeah, I think we are planning on doing some more business process videos, but like Damien said, we do have a webinar on a Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern time, and I do believe that the business process one will be coming up again soon. So you can check out on our website interface.com/webinars. You'll be able to see the list of up and coming webinars on there.
Can I add a button to the right hand side of the page? For example, I want to add a feed or a news link. So I guess you mean this kind of right hand side of the page. So Bitrix includes some standard items on this right hand side, including workflows and calendars and tasks and things. Can't You can't configure these, I don't think, on the self-hosted, on the cloud. On the self-hosted, you could add additional ones on there. So.
I think time's coming to a close on this now. So, like we mentioned at the start, we do have our email live at Bitrix24, live at Interface.com, sorry, and we can answer those on the next session. We obviously have a Twitter handle at Interface, and we can answer those. We also offer a full training. We also offer our support. If you want to give us a call, pull up our details on our site here and leave them on the screen for a little bit. We're also available to give any demonstrations should you have any custom requirements that you may need that we haven't covered today. We also can do a one-to-one, or we can do an online demonstration to show you. So our contact details are on the screen there.
Question about saving a template for a new subscriber. I don't know which template, which area you're working in there, so it depends. You can, if you're an administrator, save page layouts for other users. We looked at that earlier, so if that's what you want to do, you can do that. You have to be an admin to be able to force your page view onto another user.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of different areas on the templates. There's email templates, task templates, templates of the layout. There's quite a lot. So, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks. See you next time.